If you're around in the 80s and 90s, you'll have heard this place mentioned on the news a lot. We're at Greenham Common at the airbase. I'm going to have a look around and we'll tell you a bit about the history of the place, because there's more to it than the peace protest. Starting with a coffee though. We're now walking on what was the airbase. It's reverted back to public land. You can see there's cattle grazing and lots of calves. Very cute they are too. RAF Greenham Common. It was operated by the RAF from 1943 to 1945, and then by the United States Air Force from 1951 all the way through to 1992. And latterly, it was the base for nuclear weapons. You wouldn't think so to look at it now, would you? It's been mired by controversy throughout its time as an airbase, especially when it was a nuclear airbase. But there were accidents before that. On the 28th of February 1958, a B-47 developed problems and it jettisoned two of its 1,700-gallon external fuel tanks. One hit a hangar and one hit the ground, but it was only 65 feet behind a B-47 plane, which was fueled, and the pilot on board plus two ground crew were killed when the plane was engulfed in flames. A little bit more about that story, because that's not where that one ends, in a little while. In 1944 there were two other accidents here at the base, which resulted in the death of 49 airmen, US airmen that is. On December the 12th, 1944, 31 American paratroopers of the 194th Glider Infantry Regiment and two pilots for the 88th Troop Carrier Squadron were killed during a training exercise when their British-made Horsa glider crashed shortly after takeoff. And then, just 3 days later, two B-17 Flying Fortress bombers from the 368th and the 423rd Squadrons of the 306th Bombing Group, nicknamed the Reich Wreckers, collided over the Common, killing 16 US airmen after being diverted due to heavy fog on their return from Germany. So it's been mired by accidents in its past. And now Keith's thinking about upcycling. Anyway, back to the story, Keith. There is a memorial here to the accident with the gliders. We'll go have a look at that now. This is the glider accident, the Horsa gliders, in memory of the 31 patriotic American glider troopers of the 194th Glider Infantry and two glider pilots of the 88th Troop Carrier Squadron who lost their lives. And then this one in the middle is dedicated to all United States servicemen who gave their lives in the name of freedom. And then this one is for the B-17 accident. And they were returning from a tough mission in the German industrial heartland of Kassel. Accident was unavoidable. The formation ran into conditions of extreme poor visibility, and it is apparent that neither pilot saw the other aircraft.
The tower not only got a cafe, but it's got a exhibition and everything, so let's go and have a look.
you come into the building, at the bottom of the control tower, there's a timeline of the Commons, right through from 10,000 BC, right through to 2018, when the tower was open to the public with Heritage Lottery funding. A lot of information there, a lot of years. We're going to go upstairs now.
I saw one of those at the Valley recently.
There's models with information about what all the different things are, including a NATO M1014 man tractor, McDonnell Douglas F101 Voodoo, lots of different planes. Information about the protests, which we'll tell you in a little while, including some stories from the protesters and people who worked here in the control tower. From back in, I was going to say olden days, but you were born then, in the 50s. The head of transportation, crash and rescue firefighter. So little bits of information from lots of different people who've been connected with the place one way or another. And then information boards about nuclear missiles, nuclear weapons, the USA versus the USSR and the Cold War. Lots of stuff in here that you can come and read. I'm getting a bit of strobing here, but this is a map of the airbase with a magnifying glass so that you can look closer. What's this one?
It's showing some timelines, so from the Hiroshima bomb outwards. 52, UK tests its first atomic bomb. Bit 54, 1954, B-47 Stratojet bombers at Greenham. And I think it's made to look like
a blast.
Wave. Yeah, a blast wave.
And different service badges, different regiments. And for a while, the international air tattoos were held here. Now we're going to go up into the observation room in a few minutes.
This area was the meteorology area where they were looking at all the weather patterns.
And over in that side there's a gallery where artists and makers can display their goods that they've made, painted. And this is different little bits of information. Lift up flaps that tell you more. And there's a view from this floor of the common as it looks now. When we go upstairs, you'll see more. To the observation deck, into a heavy security door as we head up.
That's the original door.
The original door.
You do get a chance to come, folk. It's worth it. We're up on the observation deck now. You can see the views, and there are information boards again which tell what views you've got from different angles. And questions. So, is that a warehouse? And answers to them. What's that beige building? Metal pole in the air. Even what was where the bushes are.
Yeah, 2 black ones over here. So we've got a white and a white.
That gravel path in distance is new, and it cuts across one of the turning and parking circles for the planes, which is there. So just, it's a turning circle, and just over there is where it was. In distance there's a flagpole. Well, it says, is that a flagpole? You might not pick it up, but it was the airfield's windsock.
There's young ones there. Yeah, there's a couple over there. And there's some over here. Have you spotted the white cattle?
There's the only remaining hangar, just tipping out of the trees in the distance.
It says visiting aircraft like B-47s or KC-97s were serviced in one of the 3 hangars that were here. There were too many aircraft between 1954 and 62, so they had to be stored outside.
I have visual. Hello both.
Hello.
You happy to read your way through?
Yes, thank you.
Well, you've got 2 expert guides.
Yes.
Yes.
You've got 1 expert guide and a learner. So, shout if you need us.
Thank you very much. And if when you come and visit, there are binoculars so that you can actually look more closely.
Oh, there's a baby cow in the queen location. It's that kind of family 4 in there, yeah. So we're going to swap sides. You seem to be much interested in that direction. There's a lot of doggies this way. Oh, little black. I found a tiny short head round.
So the question there is that a runway?
Comes in.
The runway extends horizontally and has been replanted with local flora. Over 1 million tonnes of concrete were dug out and sold as ballast for the Newbury bypass on the A34 to help fund the Commons restoration.
Yeah, that's
And there's an industrial estate now over there in the distance, which used some of the USA Air Force buildings and replaced others. Then you've seen when we were outside before, the cows. They're owned by the commoners who have historic grazing rights. And they were returned to the common in 1999. And then, where's this one?
Presumably over in that area there. A 6 ground-launched cruise missile used silos.
I saw 2 dogs earlier trying to figure out
Staff called them gamma shelters.
Oh yeah,
They stored 96 cruise missiles for the USF Air Force 501st Tactical Missile Wing.
Hold on. Happy brown light.
And as it was on 24/7 alert, one of the shelters also had living quarters.
Now then, I said I hadn't heard about igloos. But I didn't have here either. So the vehicles were stored.
Lots of
Yeah, I mean, it's would be wonderful.
information when you come up here.
People slept in it. So that was in.
Well, there they are. You can see them in the.
Ah,
I was looking
yeah.
close out. The shelters there, the gamma shelters are over there, and the
Just there.
themselves like very isolated without any other sources of explosive.
You dog spotting.
Yep.
Fire. That's all.
You'd only
the various ponds around were created when the underground fuel tanks were removed.
The tanks could store millions of gallons of aviation fuel, and they were connected to a storage depot near Reading by an 8-mile pipeline. Fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Things that you don't actually think about.
Appreciate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some spaces behind, because there's 2 rows of buses there. I think there's be space in between. but I-
Water towers just peeping over the trees in the distance.
Yeah. No, I just think it's.
And that was used to provide water for the officers' houses and servicemen's barracks. And one of the guides was telling us that people who worked on the base at various points often get in touch with them and say, I worked there and I kept hold of different bits and pieces, and would you like them? So they donate them. And we'll go downstairs because it's getting a bit busy now, but then we'll tell you about that in a minute.
This is what the bird's eye view. So this is the sort of the view that the pilots would have had coming into land.
There's the gamma shelters which we were just saying about.
So it was a big place, wasn't it?
Massive.
I suppose had to be for some of the size of the planes that were coming in.
I took a step too far, didn't I?
That's what we're looking at here, Keith.
It looks like type of flight radar with planes coming across. These are what they all are. The various call signs.
They feel like willows. Yeah, exactly.
We do like looking at flight radar on our phones, don't we? See
do.
what's around.
If
When we were on Anglesey recently, we were watching a rescue, weren't we, on flight radar?
Do you think that still makes sense?
It's got the old, not old-fashioned tours, but
this house core storage includes
a young lady was just asking, how do you use these old-fashioned phones?
radiation symbol on the outside. There's just something around.
And this track was the turning circle, wasn't it?
Yeah. We just looked down on when we're up in the control tower, observation tower. And going back to the accident where the B-47 plane exploded after the external fuel tanks hit it from another plane, there was a report released in 1966 that said the fire actually detonated the high explosives in a nuclear weapon that was on that plane, and that plutonium and uranium oxides were spread over a wide area. Back in 1961, the report was secret. And it was written by 2 scientists who worked at the Atomic Weapons Research Establishment at Aldermaston, which isn't too far from here, is it?
No, it's down the road.
The report further stated that high concentrations of radioactive contamination were found at the airfield. But in 1997, a detailed survey found no evidence of a nuclear accident, which suggested that the statements are actually false. So I mentioned the air tattoo when we showed you some of the badges and plaques upstairs. The air tattoo actually started here in 1973 and was held here for a few years. On other points of interest about the place, the airfield's been used for various TV and film making. Top Gear have filmed here back in the days when it was Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May. And 2 Star Wars movies have been made here. Star Wars The Force Awakens and Star Wars The Last Jedi. And another film that's popular, Fast and Furious 9, was filmed here. Also, if you're a fan of Beyonce, the airfield was used to film scenes for her self-titled visual album back in 2013. Well, we can't visit Greenham Common without talking about the peace protest. So I take it this was one of the ponds that was
Made when they took the fuel tanks out.
You can see the viewing area,
Control tower.
you can see the control tower. So you can see the control tower there in the distance now. So the peace protest, we're not doing so. In September 1981, 32 women, 4 men and several children marched from Cardiff in Wales to Berkshire, which is where we are, to protest over nuclear weapons being sited here at RAF Greenham Common. Why can't I not say Greenham Common? Greenham Common. Here. The following year, the founders of the protest declared that the camp was women only, and it became one of the longest and most famous examples of feminist protest in recent history. The camp was set up outside the RAF base to protest against the US nuclear weapons on British common land, and women of all ages, classes and circumstances came to Greenham. And despite the camp, the first cruise missiles came to Greenham in 1983. But the protest continued through the 80s and 90s, with many women taken to court, fined and even jailed. But the signing of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty between the US and Russia in 1987 paved the way for the removal of the missiles. The US Air Force actually left the base in 1992, followed by the UK, but the peace camp remained as a continuing protest against nuclear weapons until the year 2000. It's a well-used common now, isn't it? Dog walkers, cyclists, joggers. And if you do want to come, you want to look more, you can actually pick up a leaflet here. The Cold War Walk around Greenham Common. A walking trail that starts and ends at the control tower. And inside it shows you some points of interest. Control tower, central runway, decontamination suite, wing headquarters, fire plane. It's quite a walk. You can also go to the bunkers, the Gamma site, which we showed you earlier. So that's a history and a quick walk around Greenham Common. What is it, Keith?
Greenham Common. There's an M in it.
There's what?
M's in it.
Greenham Common.
That's it.
Thanks for watching. Coffee time. Come on. We mentioned that some people on the base, who worked on the base, served on the base, took mementos, and that sometimes they got in touch with the people who are running the place now to tell them that they had stuff and they'd like to donate it. One of those that we were told about was a US serviceman who worked there, and he said, I've got some runway lights that I took when I left the base, would you like them? So what they're planning to do is use those runway lights on the approach road into the car parks. Should look pretty good, shouldn't it? Anyway, we couldn't find a decent coffee shop, so who says we can't do posh in the van? Nice cup of tea this time and some tiramisu.
Very nice.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.